All right, man, peace. So, brothers, what has recently come into vogue in college football, at least in regards to the American college football, the NCAAs, is that the top NFL prospects believe that after a while, if they've cemented where they think they'll be drafted in the up-and-coming NFL draft, that they will sit out for the remainder of the season. And I don't blame them, because they are commodities, and after a while, if you know that you can't get any higher in the NFL draft, why risk yourself playing out the whole season? You could tear up your knee, you could destroy your ankle, your whatever. As I'm watching this basketball player of the Duke Blue Devils, Zion Williamson, I'm beginning to think that he should probably tell Coach Mike Krzyzewski, you know what, Coach Mike, I'm going to sit out the rest of this season. Because I'm watching this dude, Zion Williamson, play, and he plays with reckless abandon, man. And I would hate to see him hurt himself in one of these games and compromise his earning potential in the NBA draft. They had a game a couple of nights ago where he did something which I've only seen Michael Jordan do in college. What he did was he blocked the shot and he banged his head against the backboard because he leaped so high. Of course, this inspired Max Kellerman to once again show his admiration for the physical aspect of the Schwartzes, the so-called black man. So they're going to talk about it. I'm going to chime in.
Zion Williamson made another appearance in a Blue Devils highlight. Zion hit his head on the backboard.
Now look at how he landed. Fortunately for him, he has legs like LeBron James. People talk about why LeBron James has not torn up his knee. It's because you could tell he takes great pains to make sure that his legs are very powerful. And most likely he does many stabilization exercises for his knees. But that was a very scary play there. And like I've stated, the only other player that I could think of offhand who did something like that was Michael Jordan, who when he was a member of the Carolina Tar Heels, he had a chase down block where he also banged his head against the backboard. He actually knocked himself out of the game for a moment in that game. You brothers could look it up. But as we can see here, Zion Williamson did the same thing, and he landed very awkwardly.
While blocking a shot in a win over Princeton last night, Max, how impressed were you by that block?
Well, you know whose hops I'm not worried about right now?
Yeah, Zion. Welcome to Zion.
This is the difference between a dude who's not even yet at his athletic peak, but is just all jump out the gym, springy. I know he's diesel, but Stephen A. That dude, like...
Max Kellerman wants to get his get out on with Zion Williamson. Imagine if I could combine my brain with his body. Wow.
How impressed? Real impressed. Zion Williamson does stuff all the time at his size, that we've never quite seen before. Not Sean Kemp, who was not as wide body. Not LeBron James, same thing. Not Charles Barkley, not as tall. Like, we haven't seen this thing quite yet. And it is so much fun every time you see it.
Listen, the man is spectacular. He's a spectacular athlete. There's no doubt about it. To be 6'6", 6'7", to have like a 46, 47-inch vertical leap, to do the things that he can do athletically, is just something to behold. But I will tell you, just as impressed as I am with him, I do find myself worried at times because he does play with reckless abandon.
I agree, sir. That's why if I were his management team, I'm sure that he has one. I'm sure he has a management team, even though they're not going to go public yet. They should contemplate telling him to sit out the rest of the season. Kyrie Irving did it basically. Of course, they said that Kyrie had an injury, but we know that Kyrie sat out the rest of his rookie season, or I should say the rest of his freshman season with the Duke Blue Devils, and Zion Williamson should consider the same thing.
He's a skywalker. And how he came down, for example, yesterday when his elbow and his head almost hit the backboard. You look at stuff like that, that's an ACL waiting to happen.
Absolutely.
Those are the kind of things that you got to watch out for and you got to monitor. He's so athletically gifted. He's so extraordinary that he thinks he can do anything.
Well, he basically can on a basketball court.
And that's when your body finally reminds you that you're human. He needs to be careful about that and just monitor himself just a little bit.
Look, it's not obviously coincidental that we put these two guys, LeBron and Zion, in the same block. And it's also not coincidental that and they're compared to each other. Zion's being compared to a young LeBron in many respects. And it's also not coincidental that LeBron is blocked because he didn't get up quite high enough, and Zion bangs his head on the rim on a block.
Right, but Max Kellerman, block dunks are going to happen. Michael Jordan got his dunk blocked many a time. Kobe Bryant got his dunk blocked many a time. That's just a part of competitive sports at the elite level.
That's not coincidence. One guy is an older, wiser player, and the other guy has all the stuff of youth, including the reckless abandon, and it was not a coincidence and really interesting to see those two things happen on the same night.
Stephen A., let me ask you this. When has college basketball seen a physical specimen in this type of athlete?
Shaquille O'Neal. If we're just going to talk about the specimen aspect, Shaq in college was something to behold. Now, of course, he was never able to win the big one in college, but Shaquille O'Neal at 7'1", back then I would say he probably was about 280, 270. Size 22 feet, but was still extremely nimble. I mean, he was a phenomenon before he was drafted.
College basketball?
Yeah, so that takes LeBron out of the equation. I can't think of anybody. That's why I'm asking you.
One guy comes to mind.
That's a tough one right there. The R.J. Barretts and others, I've seen that before. I haven't seen a guy 6'6", 6'7" with a 47-inch vertical leap on a collegiate level.
I would not try to compare him to somebody of the equivalent body type. I would try to compare him in regards to the energy that he gives off as just being different from everybody else out there on the floor. And the last guy who I can remember vividly had that same type of energy was Shaq.
That can handle the ball, that can pass the ball, that obviously is spectacular on the break in the open court, could shoot a little bit as well. I haven't seen that.
No, this combination is unique so far.
Yeah.
The degree at which he can do everything is new, given his size. I will say that there are some players who come along and you're so blown away by the fact that they're just physically different. They seem physically unstoppable, starting with Wilt Chamberlain, going through, Shaq, and I'm talking about the big dudes. And then even LeBron. I think LeBron's the latest iteration of
Hey, as I've been telling you brothers for a very long time, have I not been telling you that LeBron James is the Wilt Chamberlain of this era? That's what he is. He's just the physical freak who is going to have a lot of opportunities to win the big one, but he's not going to win the big one oftentimes because there's just that little something lacking, right? The little idiosyncrasies that separate winning from losing. LeBron James did not have that in the early portion of his NBA career. I think that he has a lot more of it now. But the difference is that he's so set in his ways that he's only able to play one way in one system.
I took him out because he didn't go to,
Sure.
And Wilt Chamberlain was very similar. Wilt Chamberlain had a very difficult time winning the big one. I get guys who come on my channel, Wilt Chamberlain is the greatest basketball player ever. No, he's not. Wilt Chamberlain is the greatest athlete of the 20th century. That's what Wilt Chamberlain was. A guy 7'1" with a damn 46, 47-inch vertical leap, who was also a track star. I mean, this guy set records in the high jump, the long jump, the broad jump, the discus, javelin throw. I mean, this guy set so many records at the University of Kansas, then became an elite volleyball player after he retired from the NBA, a borderline elite level race car driver. Like, he was just a freakish athlete. Arnold Schwarzenegger is on record. Remember, they filmed the movie, I believe it was Conan the Destroyer, together. And Arnold Schwarzenegger is on record as stating that Wilt Chamberlain bench pressed 500 pounds. And he was not even a weightlifter.
Sure.
Just out of high school.
So I would say, even though it's a very different package, the last time I laid eyes on a college player, and it's not even about he's the best college player in the world, it's just about, woof, this is something new, was Shaq. Last time when you saw Shaq, as good as he was in college, you thought, what are they going to do with this dude in the NBA? Just get out of the way. That's the feeling I get from a different kind of package.
It's a different kind of feeling.
Physical phenomenon.
It's a different kind of feeling, but the two names that come to my mind is Shaq and Chris Webber.
Yep.
Chris Webber's not a bad comp in regards to his impact. Chris Webber was another player who was a sensation in college. He just could never win the big one because he would have meltdowns in clutch moments. He and his teammates.
Chris Webber was with the Fab Five.
Both had fantastic careers, good company.
And Chris Webber should be in the NBA Hall of Fame, or the Basketball Hall of Fame, I should say, if for no other reason than the impact of what he had, of what he was able to accomplish in college as a member of the Michigan Wolverines, and then come into the NBA and lead various formerly moribund franchises to the playoffs. I mean, he came into the league, Golden State went to the playoffs, then he gets traded to Washington, which was a moribund franchise. He gets them to the playoffs. Then he goes to Sacramento. He gets them to the playoffs. Like, Chris Webber was a guy who, he could change a franchise because he knew how to play winning basketball.
company to be in. We'll leave it there.
But anyway, that's basically it on that. We'll see what happens with Mr. Zion Williamson. But if I was a member of his management team, I would be telling him, you know what, you might want to consider sitting out for the remainder of the season because your stock is not going to get any higher. So peace.